our reaction to F123's driver ratings. Let's explain now the 4 categories that F1 EA have put for these driver ratings. The first one is experience. This is based on the number of race starts a driver has over the course of their career. Very simple. You can't really debate that one too much.
No.
Then you have racecraft. The driver's ability to work their way through the pack and finish in a higher position than where they started. That one's maybe up for debate because you could just be terrible at qualifying. Awareness. The less time spent in the steward's room will help drivers here. Real-world punishments will impact the score in this category. Then you have pace, which benefits those who get closest to the fastest qualifying and race lap times. A driver beating their teammate is also taken into consideration. And then overall, you have a rating, and that is the combination of the previous 4 ratings. This overall rating will go up and down throughout the season based on performance. And of course, this is to do with the F123 game. So, are you ready, Tommy?
Yes, I think it's worth mentioning that the overall rating, I imagine, was probably done quite early. So there'll probably be a refresh. I think they normally do a refresh after a few rounds. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on a few of these, because I'm sure we won't agree with all of them, but that's the beauty of debate.
Okay, let's begin with the first driver on this list, Logan Sargent. 48 experience, 84 racecraft, 75 awareness, 67 pace, with an overall rating of 71. Now, do we think it was higher, or should be higher, should be lower, or is it just about right? For me, just about right. For Logan Sargent, I think 71, it sits quite well with me. He's a rookie. He hasn't particularly proved himself yet. However, 84 racecraft is an absolute disgrace to humanity. What even is that? That in itself, I think, is measured very much on terrible qualifying, gains a few positions. But hey, if that's the way they're measuring it, that's fine. But 84 racecraft really sticks out to me as something that's a little bit of an anomaly.
Yeah, I think this is about right. I mean, he's bottom of this list with 71 overall. And I think it's hard to argue that he shouldn't be bottom because he's a new driver. He's obviously not driving a very good car, but not really wowed us so far this year. Logie Sarge, P20, just seems right, doesn't it?
Wow, we now move to Nick De Vries. 50 experience, 84 racecraft, 75 awareness, 67 pace, with an overall rating again of 71.
Yeah, so this one is very similar. Again, I'd say it's maybe just about right. Maybe I'd give him an extra point on Logan Sargent just because he's had that, extra race. He scored a point. I'd maybe just give him like a 72 just to put him one higher than Logan. But there's not too much to argue about here other than, I guess, racecraft being really high again.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just about right. Because he scored points, I think I agree with you as well. 72 would maybe make a little bit more sense. We now go to Oscar Piastri. 74 experience, 73 racecraft, 79 awareness, 77 pace, with an overall rating of 74. I don't know about my maths here, but I feel as though adding those all up together and dividing them doesn't come up to 74.
No, it doesn't. They don't do that because I guess you could argue that if someone was new, absolute best driver in the world, then it wouldn't be fair to give them a low rating just because they were inexperienced. So I don't think it's exactly an average.
True. Okay, well, there you go. We've clarified that now. I think he should be a few points higher. He's had a great rookie season so far, I think, and to be not too far off Lando really deserves some credit. He doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the 80s, but I think a 76, a 77 is about right. I think he's done a good job, and 74 is a little bit harsh.
Yeah, it's racecraft 73 when the others are 84. Screams to me that it is a case of how well you qualify or badly you qualify and then make your way through the field, whereas Oscar Piastri has had races where he has qualified very well. But I would say, yeah, a little bit higher here, but there's a big gap for the next person. So I personally don't think it should be that much of a jump. I know these three are all rookies, but yeah, I think a 75 or a 76, so maybe just a little smidge higher.
We'll now go to Zhou Guan Yu. 63 experience, 78 racecraft, 74 awareness, 81 pace with an overall rating of 78.
Seems about right to me. I think he's had a good season so far. He's showed that he can be on pace with Bottas. He had a lot of bad luck last year, so yeah, I think this is a fair rating.
I've also gone with about right. I think this one actually is probably the most accurate rating we've had yet. I don't really have any qualms with these particular numbers, and I think 78 I think he's doing well, and if he continues this, I fully well see him being in the low 80s when we get to the next game. Okay, Nico Hulkenberg is up next. 86 experience, 79 racecraft, 81 awareness, 80 pace, with an overall rating of 80. I've gone for about right. I think before the start of the season, I would have maybe hyped him up for a few more points, but he's not really performed to the level that I was expecting him to perform. I think that is obviously on Haas as well. 80, it's about right.
I know people hate it when we agree, but I think you've said everything that I was going to say in terms of just the fact that if we'd have gone into the start of the season and what I'd have expected Hulkenberg to do, I'd be like, it should be about 83. 84, something like that, because I was saying it'd be the biggest surprise. People think he's a bit washed, and actually he's a very solid driver, but maybe it's just something about being in a Haas makes you the most inconsistent and kind of flopping all over the place driver ever.
Kevin Magnussen now, 81 experience, 79 racecraft, 85 awareness, 82 pace, with an overall rating of 81.
I will go for almost about right, but I think I wouldn't separate anything between Hulkenberg and Magnussen, so maybe just a tiny bit lower. I'd probably both put them either 81 or 80, just because I think this season is a great reflection of it. We've seen it always seems like only one of them can perform really well in qualifying, and then the other one's absolutely abysmal. Maybe just a tiny bit lower.
I've also gone for lower. I don't really feel like he's been as good as Nico. So I think a point below Nico, whatever that would be. So I think Nico maybe deserves, I think 80 is about right. Maybe 81, and then Kevin a point below that. Now we go to Alexander Albon. 75 experience, 81 racecraft, 78 awareness, 86 pace, with an overall rating of 83. I've gone for about right with this one as well. I think that he's a decent driver, doing a good job at Williams, very much hamstrung by the equipment that he has. 83 is an overall rating for him, sort of sums that up quite nicely. So F123 are doing quite well at the moment. There's not been anything too outrageous yet.
Alex Albon, I think, is about right. Even though he's a really, really difficult driver to judge, because he's come into that Williams when maybe the car's improved, maybe it hasn't, we don't know.
Lovely stuff. We now go to Yuki Tsunoda. 69 experience, 79 racecraft, 75 awareness, 87 pace, with another overall rating of 83.
This one's way off. I think probably 99 overall rating for Yuki Tsunoda based on... No. To be fair, I would probably maybe based on his performance. If he keeps carrying on when they do their mid-season change, I can imagine them maybe, an extra higher grade, maybe 84, 85. Maybe 84.
Yeah, I think it's bang on the nose. I think 83 is right for Yuki. I don't think he deserves much higher than Alex, if at all. So I think having both of them on 83 is a good shout. Just about right. We now go to Lance Stroll. 79 experience, 91 racecraft, 78 awareness, 81 pace, and 84 as an overall rating. Lower. No, absolutely not. He's been washed in a fantastic car. I don't think he deserves 84. I would give him maybe 81, 82. He hasn't had those performances from a few years ago where he was on pole or sticking it randomly on the podium in a midfield car. I would put Albon and Tsunoda ahead of him. If they were all in equal cars, I think that Stroll would be third in that particular fight.
I think particularly Racecraft 91 perhaps hasn't taken into account his Monaco performance yet, because that seems very high. I'd say a bit lower. I'd put him, maybe it is an 82.
Let's go to Pierre Gasly next. 78 experience, 89 racecraft, 76 awareness, 85 pace, with an overall rating of 85.
Yeah, I think this is about right. I'd rate him, he's behind Ocon, which I agree with. I think this is pretty much spot on.
Yeah, I've gone for about right as well. 85 is about right and a fair rating, I would say, for Pierre. So next up, his teammate Esteban Ocon. 77 experience, 92 racecraft, 76 awareness, 86 pace, with an overall rating of 86. I think it's about right. He's just ahead of Pierre Gasly. I think his consistency has been brilliant. Podium in Monaco. He already has a race win under his belt from Hungary. I think 86 is lovely.
I'd maybe say just a grade higher, but it's almost about right. Yeah, if I was rating it, I'd probably give him like about an 87, but that's mainly because I very much disagree with the next one.
Oh, I'm glad we're on the same boat. Valtteri Bottas, 88 experience, 86 racecraft,
97 awareness,
86 pace with an overall rating of 87. I'm just going to sit back and let Tommy cook.
I think this is absolutely abysmal, this one. Sorry, Bottas. I think he's being absolutely carried by what he did in a very dominant Mercedes, where he picked up a handful of wins when Hamilton decided not to show up for the start of the season. And have gone, yep, that's good. For him to be nearly 10 grades higher than Zhou Guanyu when he's not obliterating him as a performance, I think is very, very generous indeed.
But I'll also have said lower, much, much lower. I think he deserves to be right down in the low 80s, perhaps an 81 or an 82. Of course, at Mercedes he was great, but he's not the driver he once was now. Carlos Sainz Jr., 84 experience, 92 racecraft, 81 awareness, 87 pace, with an overall rating of 88. I'm going to go with lower on this one. I think an 86 I think would be fair for Carlos so far. He's got a decent car underneath him in that Ferrari. Didn't really produce at the times in which he was able to, with the car winning with Charles Leclerc and getting loads of pole positions and so on. Yeah, I think 86 is probably about right for Carlos for me.
Yeah, he's a really difficult one to rate because I'd probably just downgrade him a little bit, but then I think he is better than like a knock-on. Oh, I don't know. So the thing for Carlos here is that, and again, spoiler alert, I look at the next few ratings and I don't think he should be in this same as these drivers. So I think that's where I think he's a bit too high for me.
We now go to George Russell. 76 experience, 87 racecraft, 83 awareness, 91 pace with an overall rating of 88.
So I think this one is absolutely criminal, to be honest. I think George being lower than some of the drivers that are ahead of him is quite harsh, considering that if you look at how well he did against Lewis Hamilton, of course he had the better luck that season. And again, this year, I think Hamilton is proving that he is better, but it can't be taken away from how well he's done against Hamilton. I would give him a 90.
Right, we're going to disagree then. I'm going to go with about right for George. I think that 88 pretty much sums up where he is in his career right now. Of course, he's doing really well against Lewis Hamilton, but we've already said previously that you have to take some things into account when it comes to previous seasons and championships and titles and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think 88 slots him in quite nicely. Yeah, he's on the right path. I probably wouldn't give him any higher right now, but that's no disrespect to him. 88 is still a very good score. Now Charles Leclerc. 77 experience, 92 racecraft, 85 awareness, 90 pace, with an overall rating of 89. Higher. Absolute disgrace, this one. No, I'm joking. I'd probably give him one more. I feel around 90 for Charles would be gorgeous, beautiful, in fact. I can't give him any higher than that. Even as a fanboy, I can't.
I would also agree that I think he should be about 90. He's made mistakes, but even as the Max Verstappen resident fanboy of this podcast, in terms of pace, if you read the definition, to get closest to the fastest in qualifying and race lap times a driver able to beat their teammate. Is that not Charles in a nutshell? Like, you can downgrade him for everything like awareness, racecraft, he's had his moments, but pace, I would argue that he is up there with Verstappen, maybe even the highest. So I think that's where he's been shafted a little bit.
Thank you for highlighting that.
Charles should be higher on pace, definitely.
We now get to Lando Norris. 76 experience, 91 racecraft, 79 awareness, 91 pace, with an overall rating of 89.
I think this is too high. Don't get me wrong. I think Lando is incredibly good driver, but I don't think you can have a driver this high up when they've not won a race. Until we see him in a top car, we're not going to know if he can deliver. I think he would, but we'll never know that. So to have him ahead of Charles Leclerc, George Russell, people that have won races, I think is a bit generous. I'd go 87.
But yes, I'm going to go with lower. I think 87 is about right for Lando. I think I'd put him 1 point lower than George. Definitely wouldn't have put him on the same rating as Charles Leclerc. They're in two very different stages of their careers, in my opinion. And 87 for Lando, again, unbelievable driver. I think once he gets into that position of proving, he will. But yeah, 89 is a little bit high. Speaking of a little bit high, Sergio Perez, 91 experience, 93 racecraft, 86 awareness, 87 pace with an overall rating of 89. No, I think lower. I think Sergio deserves around an 87, perhaps an 86. I'm not sure how you can put Perez and Leclerc on the same rating. I don't know how you can do that. Perez has performed at times and got victories, and it's been amazing, and he's been deemed the street circuit king until Monaco. At 87.
I think lower as well. I think they're very generous with this. I think racecraft, again, 93. Seeing that is probably because he has been poor in qualifying, and then he makes it up in the race. But I would argue that's mainly because he's got a car that his teammate is winning races by about 30 seconds in.
Absolutely. We now go to Fernando Alonso. 99 experience, 91 racecraft, 78 awareness, 93 pace with an overall rating of 92.
I've gone for about right with this. They've obviously upgraded him a lot, but I think that is fair because he's finally got a car that he's shown that even just a sniff of a podium is like, bam, podium pretty much almost every race really until recently. So, and it's hard to know if the Aston is the second, third, fourth best car. It kind of changes here and there. But Alonso has just shown that give him a race-winning, championship-winning car and he would still deliver even at his age. So 92, it's a big grade, but I think it's fair.
I think the same as well. Definitely about right for Fernando. An absolute beast at his age, performing unbelievably well, still has all the capabilities within him of winning a world title. He's showing that he is one of the greatest drivers to ever grace this sport. Lewis Hamilton now, 97 experience, 94 racecraft, 94 awareness, 90 pace, an overall rating of 92. I am going to say he deserves one more rating than 92. I would put him at 93. When you actually compare himself and George, then you kind of go, is that fair? But then Lewis Hamilton is literally statistically the greatest of all time. So I don't think you can really give him any lower than these kind of grades. I think 93 for Lewis would be fair.
I think this one is about right. Him and Fernando. At the moment, I think they're both performing extremely well.
Interesting. We now go to Max Verstappen. 84 experience, 97 racecraft, 85 awareness, 95 pace, with an overall rating of 94.
Yes. Oh, this is a difficult one, and he's obviously the highest grade by some way, but
2 points.
2 points. Like, he's untouchable at the moment. Like, he's actually untouchable. So could you argue that it should be even higher? Because, like, what more can he do? He's absolutely obliterating, like, every single race, it seems. He's just come off the back of, like, a Grand Slam, even topping all the practice sessions as well, I think. I'd probably say about 95, just to put him even higher, because if he carries on doing this the way he is, it's just untouchable at the moment, and it's a scary thought for everyone else.
Absolutely. And EA have said that they're going to update these grades every once in a while, so this is more based on form, although, as we say, there is a nod to the merit of previous years as well. But I've gone for a higher as well. The guy is unbeatable, man and machine, completely won, so I would have given him a 96 rating. Finally, let's pick the most overrated driver and underrated driver by these F1 23 ratings. Let's start with overrated. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's minds over who we are going, or at least I'm going for. Valtteri Bottas.
I'll go Bottas. If I'm allowed to pick any, if I have to pick different, I'll go Perez.
Underrated now.
I'm going to go George Russell. He deserves to be higher.
I will go for Oscar Piastri. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this F1 23 opinions on their driver ratings. We'll see you very soon for another piece of content. Bye!
Bye!